Exterminate! Exterminate!
I'm the Doctor.
I'm a time lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey, the constellation of Cerberus. When I see Raz.
Time and relative dimension in space.
It means life.
Greetings, humans, Daleks, Time Lords, and prisoners of the Jadoon. You are listening to Exterminating Doctor Who on Utter Radio.
This is the show to take unpopular episodes of Doctor Who and debate whether they're really all that bad.
With your hosts, Aidan Gula.
And me, George Ellis.
And in today's episode, we are talking about Revolution of the Daleks.
Right, it has some good bits, but they're very... It's the reasoning between
Scattered
us, like, yeah.
Before we
probably
get
notice... Oh, my turn, hello. Before...
Okay, yeah, you take that one.
As you'll probably notice, everyone, we're... The audio quality won't be quite as good, because we're not near each other at all.
No, we're in completely different counties, different cities, everything, because of lockdown the third, we are unable to use the usual radio studio that we would use. So if you're listening on Utter Radio or Spotify, then you will know that, yeah, the audio quality isn't as good radio quality as we usually have. But if you are watching on YouTube, then there should be a video format so you can see that we aren't even in the same location
if
whatsoever.
we've decided to do that, otherwise we might not be here and we're just completely...
We might be on video on YouTube, we might not. Who knows?
Yeah.
This is our first episode since beginning of... first episode we've recorded since the beginning of December. We've had a couple out since then. But how was your Christmas? Did you have anything Doctor Who-y happen? Did you get anything Doctor Who-y?
No, not in the... Well, actually, okay, yeah. Did I do anything Doctor Who-y? No. Did I get a present that was Doctor Who-y? Yes. My uncle got me, Tom Baker's scarf.
Yes.
He got me that for Christmas.
Ah, nice.
Because he said, and I quote, "I'm extremely hard to get presents for," and just threw that at me. So that was nice and heartfelt.
I mean, I said when we did our Christmas specials episode that I probably would watch a Christmas special around Doctor Who. Did I? No, I didn't actually, in all honesty. I rewatched the X-Men films.
Yeah,
so...
I just started watching Futurama. So very different things there.
But not Doctor Who in the slightest, really. So I sort of betrayed the team there. But I did get some Doctor Who stuff. Got a T-shirt, got a calendar, which really annoys me because it starts January on the second Doctor and it really gets under my skin. So it means everything's out. Like a month 2, you've got Doctor 3. Oh, it's all wrong. Did I get anything else? No, I think that was about it for the Doctor Who gifts, actually.
For the Doctor Who gifts, but you probably got like a million Funko Pops. Because as you can probably see, if you can see this, if you can't see this and you're just hearing us, Aidan is a fanatic for Funko Pops.
A Funko fanatic is the correct term. That's actually what Funko call the collectors.
Oh, that hurts.
Fanatic. No, so really, not a very eventful Doctor Who Christmas, really.
Not really.
No.
That's sad. Because that's quite sad, actually. But
you can't even say we watched Doctor Who on Christmas Day anymore.
No, because there wasn't one.
It's not on Christmas Day anymore. And I didn't watch this on New Year's Day. Actually, I think I was rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We both watched it last night. Actually, to be fair, I do quite like this way better because I was less stressed watching it. When I was watching Series 12, because I was watching it live, every episode I was quite tense because I was like, what on earth are they going to reveal by the end of this episode? What's going to happen? So every episode I was just expecting them to go, the Doctor was originally a baboon or something random like that. So I was quite tense throughout every episode. This time around, because it's already been it aired 2 weeks ago, I knew that there were no catastrophic changes. So I could relax a bit more watching it. So I think if I do keep up with any Doctor Who going forward, maybe the Weeping Angel episode in the next series, I think I'll watch it after it's aired.
I mean, I don't watch them when they've aired ever these days.
No.
So yeah,
you probably haven't done that since about 2010 or something.
Well, when it comes to this one, we both I remember we texted each other. With most Doctor Who episodes, we're quite excited to watch them, aren't we? Even
Yeah.
though they're usually quite bad, we're excited to see what we can fix. With this one, up until like an hour before, I was dreading it. I
Yeah.
was I was not excited because I just and then up until then about the hour before, because you watched it an hour before me.
Yeah.
Aidan kind of texted me saying, "Oh no, it's got some good points." And then I start watching it, and then Aidan starts texting me as I'm watching it. Actually, it's not as good.
Yeah. As I was finishing off the episode, it's when you were just starting it. So before I was there going, actually, I'm quite surprised. I'm enjoying this. And by the end of it, it's going, no, no, it collapses at the end. But you were still in the, actually, this is all right.
Yeah.
And then about an hour later, you were going, oh, Aidan, what was that ending? Come on. So let's just, how do you want to do this? Do you want to start from the beginning and go through? Or is there anything generally you just want to, overall thoughts? Shall we just get them out first?
Yeah. Overall thoughts. Okay. Not as bad as I was expecting,
Mm-hmm.
but not good either. You know?
Yes, that's exactly what I was expecting it to be like a 2 out of 10, but I'd give it higher than that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to give it any higher than that. We'll reveal what we'd give it at the end of this podcast. But yeah, I was expecting a complete train wreck. Like I was expecting a proper what no, like the usual bad Chibnall dialogue and just wasted characters and companions not doing anything and just the Doctor just not doing anything.
Right.
And there were some moments that actually I thought, okay, you've fixed a problem. You've created another problem, but you've fixed your usual problem. That's what it felt like. All his usual problems were fine, but there were a bunch of other ones. I was like, Chibnall, no, you fixed these ones, but this one's gone wrong as well. But generally, I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's quite nice actually, because to do this from your perspective, because obviously I've seen all of the Chibnall era to much of my own frustration. But this episode was really marketed as, hey guys, look, Jack is back. And it was to try and get people who hadn't watched since the David Tennant era back on board. That's you. You're that target audience.
Hello.
Although you have seen bits and bobs since then, but it's like your core viewing was that era. So really, it's quite nice to have, I'm the fan that has stayed with, and then you're the fan that they've said, hey, can you come back, please? So it's nice to see from my understanding, because I know how these three companions have developed, and I say that in air quotations because
They're all very
there is very little development for these companions. But I've seen that go through, and then this is your first introduction to those companions. So I think that'll be, as we go along, that'd be really interesting to see what you made of them compared to what I made of them. Do you know what I mean?
So if it looks like I'm quite mellow when you were talking about the companions, that's not because I wasn't listening. That's just because the companions annoy
Aren't
me.
interesting.
No, Jack.
But
We'll get into that. Let's
yeah,
just start
we'll
from the
go.
start,
I
shall
think
we?
we'll go from the top because my notes are obviously written in order as the episode progressed, and I'm sure yours are too.
Yes,
Until
I do amalgamate some bits when they're kind of about the same subject, but mostly it's in order.
Yeah, and then until my final page of notes is just like an hour late. And my final page of notes is an hour later when I'd let it sit. And then I thought, hold on.
I've got a lot of in my last page of notes, it's just a lot of swearing.
Yes.
Just
So,
this is a
yeah. So, well, before we get actually into the plot of the episode, something I pointed out to George and it really bothered me is the opening subtitle of the episode when it says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, or whatever the hell the subtitle was.
What was the point of that?
Clearly
No, first
written.
off, what was the before you tell us ruin that for everyone? What was the point of that? Because Doctor Who isn't Star Wars.
It was just
not.
It was just a previously to show you what happened in the last Dalek episode.
I didn't pick up on that because as soon as they started doing that, I was really confused because
Yes,
I was
it
so
like,
focused on is this Star Wars? What?
They should have just done a usual previously on Doctor Who. You know how they used to do it? Instead, they went for this awful a long time ago in a far, far away, and then it was like 2019 Cheltenham. Obviously, trying to be funny when I was like, stop. But that was it was like written in the bog standard Premiere Pro font, and I was just like,
that's the bog
someone's
standard
just
for the editing software. That
yeah.
just means you just click I would like text please and do nothing else.
It was like I don't know what they edit Doctor Who on, but it looked like somebody just gone, we need a subtitle at the start. I've just gone Premiere. This is just a font, but you're already not instilling me with confidence here. So that was the first thing that annoyed me
Most
with
people
this
wouldn't have
episode.
noticed that. I wouldn't have
No,
either because I don't usually do much video editing, and if I do, I don't notice the fonts. But Aiden decided to tell me, so that was a nice little
yeah, I
start.
picked up on it because that's the font I'll type and I go, oh no, that's horrible, and then
But
get rid of it.
it does say something for how the episode does. There is an air of kind of cheapness for a lot
Mm,
of it, really, and that does that
hidden be
that
cheapness hidden behind lens flare.
yes. But if we
So
go with shots wise, which leads on from that actually, like the directing, I would say it is well shot actually, you know?
yeah,
You
no,
were saying something about this whole kind of era feeling well shot.
yeah, it does. This whole episode, this whole era looks really nice. That is something that is a bonus for it. You know, notice the format was different. Like there was a bit of black bars.
I
This was
like
the
that.
first.
Black bars, no matter on what, if you put a little bit of black bars, it
Yeah, it
just
makes
makes
it
it
look
feel
sexier, doesn't it?
basically, yeah.
This was, I think this was the first ever episode to be shot in 4K HD as well. So if you have 4K, you can watch it in 4K.
My 4K,
Um,
I couldn't watch it on my 4K TV because my BBC haven't released an app for the PlayStation 5, so I can't
I
watch
see.
BBC iPlayer on the PlayStation 5. So well done there, BBC.
Okay.
I'm annoyed
Yeah,
because that's done.
yeah. So you missed out on the 4K
Yeah.
experience basically. But it does look nice. And you sent me a snap on Snapchat at one point though saying what's with all the lens flare, and I completely agreed. I thought I was watching it going, this guy thinks he's JJ
It
Abrams.
was kind of lens flare mixed with a bit of kind of light bloom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But generally it looked nice.
Yeah.
One of my notes was, hold on, what have I got here? Really well shot, looked really nice. Especially the scene I noted was the one of the opening scenes when they were testing the riot Daleks, I'm gonna call them, the black drone Daleks.
Yeah.
And they emerged from that smoke. I thought that looked really nice.
That looked. I kind of like that, but the problem with that one is it felt like I. Obviously it was a reconstruction event in universe, but it still felt really kind of small.
Yeah.
Again, it felt like it was just done next to a motorway. That's how it felt. But
Yeah, true.
the
There was
bit
there was
I
this
liked was the truck.
yeah.
The bit where he falls over and you have that kind of shot of the focus and you was the focus on the cup. I really kind of like that. It was a really
Yeah.
interesting little shot. It's kind of shot I would use actually. It's probably why I
Yeah.
liked it. But
That does sound like your kind of shot actually.
yeah, but no, it did look good. And you were going to say something. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say they said they filmed this episode and then it was all wrapped and done, and then they filmed another scene and inserted it in about 6 months later or something. Like they just came back to film it, and I was throughout the episode I was going, "What was that scene?" and trying to
Yeah.
work it out. And I wondered if it was that riot scene because I thought after the riots of 2020 and all the protests and stuff, I thought I wonder if it was that because I thought maybe that felt a bit like, "Oh guys, just come together. You catering crew, can you just be a riot member or something?"
Yeah.
That's I thought maybe it was that one.
Yeah. It didn't. It felt like the extras were just crew kind of. And that's exactly how it felt. I know. I know. Yeah.
Mm.
I know exactly what you mean. And okay, right. Those two characters, the Prime Minister and the discount Alec Baldwin. Uh,
Jack Robertson, yeah, he previously appeared in the episode Arachnids in the UK. Just let that title sit for a moment. Arachnids in the UK.
haven't we already had spiders on the moon?
Yeah, this was Spiders in Sheffield.
We don't get aliens in
Oh, how
Sheffield.
scary. No, he was an episode previously, and he was supposed to be like your Donald Trump kind of character. It was like, I'm having a presidential run and I do all these big businesses and that kind of thing. And he was really crap. He felt better in this episode, to be fair. He actually made me laugh a couple of times, but he still
He
was very much like on the nose. This is supposed to be Trump.
Yeah, and as the episode progressed, he did feel he warmed not warm to me. I liked him more in later elements of the episode
Mm,
because it just felt more caricature. Whereas at the start, it felt more based off real life, and it was just kind of like, well, you don't need
yes.
to do this. It's Doctor
Yeah.
Who. Maybe just you're the mental guy. Be the mental guy. You don't need to base it off real life.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then I was quite fine with him. The thing that really annoyed me about his character, if we're just going to say this now rather than saying it later on, was towards the end when they did the Newsnight segment, when they were
Uh,
like going, when they were like, "Are you going to be running for president?" I thought, stop! You just avoided the
I
Trump
know, I know.
metaphor. You went into more of quite a funny caricature of character, and you've gone back to the Trump metaphor. And I thought, you've sort of just reversed his whole character here, and that did annoy me. But some of his lines he had when he was like, "This is going to be a PR disaster," they did actually quite make me laugh because I thought
I
that's
know
quite a
that
funny line.
that did, yeah, it made me chuckle, but it was like there. One hand, I quite like the line 'cause it made me chuckle. On the other hand, it's there's an alien killing people and you're not scared at all. Like, come on, I know, like,
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk the prison scene.
okay,
Just the whole. Let's talk the whole prison segment because obviously it cuts away then comes back. But let's just talk about that in general because that's loosely what comes up next. I'm unsure.
how was
This
I
was
supposed to know it was a Jadoon prison?
Yeah, that's one thing. But this is one of the things when I was watching, I was like, I do quite like some of these elements. Like when she goes, "Hi, Angela. Hi, Bonnie and Clyde." That was quite funny. It was quite nice seeing those monsters again. Except the Pating in the cage, that was just pointless.
I didn't even know which one was the Pating. I
The
just saw
lit,
it. I saw a little CGI when I was like, that can no way. I
yeah.
don't know you. You're all CGI. Go away.
There were elements that I liked,
It felt
and
honestly, it felt like she was there for less than a day. Because I know it did the
yeah,
2 days, but it still felt like she was there for less than a day.
and she said later on when she was talking to Jack that she'd been there for decades, and you could see that all the, she'd written all the days that she'd been on the wall. But it still didn't feel like that. Or that although
No.
she's got the markings on the wall, it literally felt that she'd just gone, "I'm in prison. I'm out of prison.
But
Okay."
there were TV shows that I've seen where I get to do a house reference. There
There
are
we go.
TV shows I've seen where they've done prison stuff. At the end of House's second to last season, he gets put in prison because long story, he gets put in prison. And then as the next season starts, he's got this beard, he's got longer hair, he's a bit more gravelly, and I felt like it had been years. But I
Mm,
didn't watch when I watched House, I watched them all consecutively because I didn't watch them when they first came out. So for me, it was literally a minute between. But it felt like it was like so long, you know?
yeah. And
And
I
I
mean,
just and
obviously, you can't give Jodie Whittaker a beard because that'd just be bizarre.
no, but
But I
it
know
didn't
what you mean.
feel
There
like
wasn't a feeling that she'd been there for a long
no.
time. It really didn't. And then
And
even I thought like the thing on the wall when she had the markings, how many days she'd been there. I get what you're trying to say with that, but to me, it didn't feel very doctorish for a start. And
I
I
feel
thought
yeah,
they
this
should have been like escape plans, things that had gone wrong. So like maybe
mm,
she's got a plan up there, cross that out, that didn't work.
the
Another plan
doctor
over
would
there,
focus on
cross
getting
that.
out. She
Yeah,
would focus on how many days she's been there.
that's what I thought.
The
It was a
doctor's never really been one to focus on the past. That's probably something, you know what I mean?
mm,
Likes to forget it, likes to move forward. That's the whole point. Regenerates, becomes a new person. So it didn't really feel very doctory. And you know how she was saying hello to the cameras? That did kind of make me feel like she'd been there a little bit. But one thing which a lot of prison things do is you see them know people. And if you know someone, you know they've been there. But the problem with the only other prisoners being aliens she's obviously seen before, you know she already knew them. There was no sense that she'd only just got to know them.
yeah, that's a really good point. If they were monsters we hadn't seen before, and she was going, "Oh hi, scuff lock look blah blah blah," and then they said something back,
Mhm.
maybe that feels like, oh, she knows this person. The fact it was all monsters we had seen before, it was just like, oh, there's a Sycorax, oh, there's an Ood, and it was just a bit like, yeah, that's a really good
I'm so
point I
sad
hadn't
about
thought
why
about.
would it okay. Seeing the aliens there I understood because obviously bit of fan service. But why were the Ood there? Since when have the Ood been
Mm,
bad?
yeah,
And the silence being there, I did quite like because I did like the I forgot you were here because that was a good line. I forgot you were here because obviously she wouldn't
yeah.
remember him because the silence do that.
The whole her being in prison just felt wrong, and she just like there was no attempt to escape until there was a very common theme of this episode, which was people doing things for the Doctor so she doesn't have to. And that was, oh, look, Jack's here.
I
Oh, and
can
he's got a magic thing to get us out.
I can tell you why the um the Doctor feels like that. It's because every companion needs to do something because there are so many of them. As with
Yeah.
most, like with Doctor Who, you can have the companion do something, but then the Doctor does most of it. But with there being 100 companions, you don't have time to have that one person do one thing, then back to Doctor. It's got to be person, 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 bit of Doctor, person, person, person. And it's just like, oh, come on. I'm watching Doctor Who. I'm not watching companion number 7 jumps out a window.
Yes. But I was watching it, and he did explain that he heard that the Doctor was in prison, so he
I
purposely did
missed
something
that bit.
illegal. Yeah, because I was watching, I was thinking, when Jack was there, and I thought he's got this ball thing, and I thought, why didn't he just use that for himself?
Why didn't he just use the square gun?
Well, maybe he couldn't conceal that one. He'd already
I made that.
concealed the
I like.
vortex
I
manipulator.
like that. But no, but yeah, he's concealed guns before in his you know.
Yeah. Well, no, so they did explain that the Jack that heard the Doctor was in prison, so he did something illegal and then went to prison to find her. That was the way they got around that. I thought, okay, fair enough, but it did feel a bit like, oh, so the Doctor has made no attempt to escape in all these years. Then Jack rocks up, and she's like, sure, well,
Yeah, Jack. It wasn't hard for Jack, you know.
mm,
So why wasn't it hard for the Doctor? Because I remember their breakout. They just get to a. No, they teleport out. I remember. Why did he not have the vortex manipulator on him? Why didn't he just keys to that?
I don't know. I don't know.
And the CG for the ball was terrible when they were running through the things.
Yeah. The last thing about the prison scene really is you've got the big reunion between the Doctor and Jack. Did it feel like two old friends?
No.
No, it didn't. From
It felt like me
Jack's
seeing
side,
Jack and being
yeah.
like, "Hey, Jack," and then just
a note I wrote was one-sided reunion. Jack really shone, but Doctor didn't feel like an old friend because he just felt like it felt like everything was there for the other person to do the right things. Like I could imagine Capaldi in that situation. I could imagine Tennant. I could imagine Smith. I could imagine any of those new Who Doctors in her place. But she was just like, Jack, oh, okay. And then ran up the corridor. And I thought, you haven't seen this guy in 3 incarnations. And you're just going to go, oh, Jack. And it was a bit like, come on. Can we have a bit more of a Captain
thing
Jack
is,
Harkness and have a bit more of an oomph about it? But it was
we've
just.
seen the Doctor meet old companions and that kind of thing before. Like if you look at Sarah Jane Adventures, when David meets Sarah, and also when Matt Smith meets Sarah. We've
It's a
seen them
moment.
do
It feels
that.
like a real moment,
Mm.
doesn't it?
But
It
then
just
with
didn't.
this one, it felt like I'm seeing Captain Jack be amazed by the Doctor being here and just being like, oh, you've changed and all that kind of stuff. And the Doctor not telling him how many incarnations it's been. So as far as Captain Jack knows, it's been maybe one, you know?
Yeah.
He may know it's more. I don't know. It just, one thing with a lot of the acting in this, for me, feels a bit, there's not much emotion from anyone, really.
It really feels phoned in. I completely agree. That was actually a note I've got. The only
Apart from
person,
Captain Jack,
apart from Captain Jack, and actually Yaz in some places felt
Yaz
all
felt
right.
forced though.
Yeah, but
There is a thin line there.
it felt a bit more like she wanted to be there, whereas some past appearances it felt a bit like, where's my paycheck? But
Yeah.
and everybody else in this episode, I completely agree, did not want to be there. And especially now we can move on to, before we'll do the Daleks soon, but the next scene along was we've got the companions catching up with them where they are now when they were in their TARDIS disguised as a house. And I wrote a note which was Yaz is doing something.
Wait, it was a TARDIS described. Wait, it was a TARDIS disguised as a house. I just thought it was a TARDIS in a house.
Yeah, no, it's TARDIS disguised as a house. So I did put Yaz is doing something because she had all those notes and it looked like she was actually making an effort rather than just standing in the background going, there's an alien over there, which is pretty much what she did for 2 series. But then we come to Ryan's character, played by Tosin Cole, who has recently been cast in the starring role in an American TV series. That's why he's leaving Doctor Who. And throughout this episode, it looked like he was going, fly me to America. I do not want to be here.
I didn't know whether that was his acting or what that was, but I got a feeling whenever he was talking or doing anything, I was like, either you can't act at all, or you just hate everyone here and you want to kill them all.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
either way,
his-
that meant his acting felt wooden and it felt dry and it was just like, dude, I can't enjoy watching you at all because I feel like you don't want me to, you know?
Yeah. I mean, Ryan's character, anyway, I had this thought when I was watching. Ryan's character, anyway, is quite quiet and quite dry, really. And I was watching it going, I do know people like that. So in a way,
People like that.
He is playing that very. I thought, in a way, he's playing that very well because I do know people that just barely say anything, and when they do,
Then why cast him in Doctor Who?
But I thought,
why write that in?
yeah, I thought, why would you have that as a character in Doctor Who? Sure, have that as a character in Coronation Street if you want it realistic. But in Doctor Who, you need somebody lively, and they're gonna drive you through all these adventures. And Ryan just isn't anyway. He was probably my least. No, Yaz was my least favorite. Then it was Ryan, but he was
in this episode. Ryan is my least favorite because I haven't seen.
Yes, same. Generally, Yaz was my least favorite only because she had like the least development. Ryan actually had some development, but he just in this episode it really felt like he didn't want to be there at all. And I know people could say, well, his character did decide to leave at the end. Fair enough, but that's
At the end, I was like, "Oh, is this why you've been moody?" I was like, "Is that the reason?" Because if
I thought that, but
would you want to enjoy the last moment? I've seen films and stuff where you've had a character who's wanted to leave at the end, and they've been playing on this kind of idea of I want to stay, but it just felt like, dude, why are you conflicted about leaving? You obviously want to jump out the window.
Especially because this comes later on, but while we're on the companions, seem to be moving in sections here rather than like actually we're going through the episode, but we're also jumping it in, Jack's moments, companion moments.
What did you expect from us, Aidan?
Yeah, there's no organization whatsoever, is there? So there was a moment that really, really annoyed me with Ryan. Actually, like it really was. My note is, "Who the do you think you are?" That was my note, and it was when Jack came into the TARDIS for the first time with them all. And Yaz said something and he goes, "Oh, she's good." But then Ryan says, "We all are." And I was like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
You do not have the right to say that, Ryan. What have you done for 2 series? You can't even ride a bike, man. I thought, you do not have the right to say that. We all are. And I thought, shut up. It really annoyed me.
Right. Let's just talk about a bit about the other companions for a second.
Graham is usually the highlight, right?
Okay.
In this one, he wasn't.
No, got to stop you there. The problem with Graham is I don't see Graham. I just see Bradley Walsh.
That's why he's usually the highlight.
That
because
ruins
it's Bradley Walsh.
Right. Okay. Tom Hanks. Yes. Every time I see Tom Hanks, I see the character, no matter what. But he's so famous. Why is that? Because he can act really goddamn well. I see Bradley Walsh's character, Graham, and I'm seeing Bradley Walsh. There's no anything. I'm just seeing Bradley Walsh playing Bradley Walsh in a Bradley Walsh character. There's nothing there. At least with Jodie Whittaker playing the Doctor, I don't see Jodie Whittaker, to be fair. I'm seeing an attempt at playing the Doctor.
An attempt, yeah, definitely. Because I was thinking, well, I don't see the Doctor, but I don't see Jodie Whittaker either. I just see a children's entertainer, really. But no, Graham is usually when I've tried to watch these 2 series, usually he's like, "Oh, this episode is atrocious," but actually, Graham, you're quite funny, so I'll let you go. In this one, no. Bradley Walsh is really underused. He's obviously left as well, so maybe he was like, my contract's up. I just need to get to the end of the day. But it was just a bit like, Graham, even you can't say this one.
That's so sad. You shouldn't feel like that about on Doctor Who,
Let's talk the Daleks then. So the black design. When we did our episode 2 months ago, we did Victory of the Daleks. If you've not listened to it, check it out on YouTube or Spotify. Exterminating Doctor Who. We discussed the recently, like it just been revealed, those black Dalek designs. So we were talking about them and saying, what do we think of them? We were quite negative.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say they looked better in action. Rather than those images we talked about in that episode when they was just sort of stationary, I did think they looked better.
They look better there are elements that look better in movement. But I hate the eye, like the head. I hate the head so much because the eye stalk looks really weird with the big line down. I hate the head. The rest, I can kind of cope.
The reason I can forgive it is because when we saw that promotional material, I assumed that was just the new Dalek. The fact we know it's a man-made Dalek based on the Dalek design that was built in a shed in Sheffield, and they've just looked at that Dalek and gone, we'll just repeat that. I can let it go because I think it looks a bit better now. I still don't Love the dome. The dome. Actually, all the domes were off in the episode. I don't know if you noticed about the gold Daleks, but all their domes were on wonky.
Yeah, I know.
Did
Like
you
one of them
notice
was
that?
talking, and one was kind of like back, like kind of. It was like
And
his neck
even
was a bit kind of. Hello,
yeah,
I
and
am a
obviously
Dalek.
they've got like the grid bit, and then obviously the dome goes on top, and the dome should be like that. But there were a few times I noticed it was like that,
Mm.
like all sideways and wonky, and it was a bit like I was like, have they just gone to what was the Doctor Who experience, gone into a corridor and gone, there's a Dalek there, get that, and it's just gone a bit moldy and soft in the years it's been there or
Yeah.
something, and it was like they just got that out of storage, and they. I noticed about a few of the Daleks, all the domes were wonky. So I don't know what was going on with the domes in this episode for the Daleks, because the new Dalek domes were crap and these Dalek domes weren't on properly. Maybe they got two tall people inside and they're all just sort of like crouched.
That's probably it. Actually, no, thinking about it, it's probably just people who are too tall.
Maybe.
With the new Dalek design, or now the obsolete Dalek, the Dalek design, when they went red, looked better. They did look better. But that was very kind of, it's cliche though, isn't it?
It was a bit
These
with
Daleks
bad.
are now bad. We go
Yeah.
red. It's like, oh,
Yeah, I
alright.
thought that. But I did really like those Daleks when they were exterminating. I thought that was probably one of the best Dalek scenes we've had for quite a while.
They kept
Because
missing though. I mean, come on. When they
no,
were exterminating, they missed like 7, like they
well, when
killed
they
2
were
out of 10. It's like your
no, when
numbers are terrible.
no, when they were chasing the companions, it was. But when the Daleks first teleported into the Dalek shells, and they just went, "We're unleashing now." That was the highest Dalek body count I've seen probably since the Tennant
Oh,
era.
that bit, yeah, no, that bit was cool.
That
But
bit
they
was
still missed.
really, really good because it was just like you're that dead, you're dead. It was everybody, woman in a queue, dead. It's like it doesn't matter who you are. We're not
Ah,
even going for security personnel. It's just you're in the
well, the
queue,
security
not anymore.
personnel were dumb because their reaction to the Daleks was, "Hold, stop what you," and then one of the royal guards ran over and just fell over. So that was,
But it's something we've said before on the Victory of the Daleks episode. We said the Moffat Dalek episodes aren't great. He sort of didn't really understand how to do a fleet of Daleks,
yeah,
and that was a problem with the Moffat era. I will say Chibnall's best episodes have been his Dalek episodes. It feels a
yeah.
bit more like he knows how to make them scary. And I'm not saying I was scared of them, but that's the
There was
term.
a moment where the Daleks did freak me out, and that was
Yes, there
impressive.
was. That's true. Tell it to the people.
the the whole point of these Daleks is they're grown clones from one, and then once we've got this kind of clone Dalek, he decides the bright idea. First off, right, my notes here say, why the would you grow an alien? So he decides to grow the this alien thing, and then he shows his boss, which is again dumb, and then his boss says burn it. So then he goes to take it to the incinerator. I think this is a good idea. Let's put the thing in the case in the incinerator. Easy, he opens it up and the Dalek jumps on him. First off, that was creepy. Second off, why the hell did he open the case?
I thought
This,
exactly the same thing. I was like, okay, just chuck that in. I thought it's ending the episode a bit soon, but sure, just chuck that in. And then he took it out, and I thought, okay, it's obviously a very valuable case then. And then it jumped on him, and I thought, wow, that's what you get for
yeah,
not just chucking the whole thing in, you idiot.
but the alien the Daleks, the mutated Daleks, do this a lot because later on in the episode, what he does is he latches onto Leo, his name was, and gets Leo to build this big cloning facility. The Dalek doesn't just use Leo, but there's a long, like, they explain it later on. But there's
Mm.
a big cloning facility where he's cloning
In the
loads of.
Japanese part of Sheffield, in the Japanese
Yes.
part of Cardiff, rather.
Yeah.
He was like, we're in Japan. And I was like, no, you're not. You're in Cardiff.
Yeah. And then we see kind of the Daleks as Captain Jack and Yaz are there later on. They kind of infiltrate it. We see there and with Leo, the Dalek alien mutated one, do a lot of face hugger things. So jumping on people, a lot of very alien, like alien Ridley Scott
Yeah.
stuff. That quite creepy. But I didn't find it creepy in hindsight because it was Daleks doing Dalek stuff. I found it creepy because it reminded me of a good version of Aliens,
Mm.
you
I
know?
suppose so. Yeah.
But
I do quite like the concept of the aliens out of their casing, though.
yeah, but it
For
was
something
still
for
creepy.
Chibnall's Dalek idea, I do quite like that. Just generally, really.
They were creepy, to be fair, and the latching on. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen a proper new design for the SAS Daleks, as we called them.
Yeah,
The
'cause
Death
why
Squad
they
Daleks, or
were
whatever they
supposed to be
were.
these special Daleks, and they weren't different at all.
They were just our Time War Daleks, which don't really make sense because the Time War's not a thing anymore. So can we get rid of the Time War Daleks, please?
Why they could have just made them silver.
Yeah, or just I would have liked to have seen a new Dalek design
Or the
instead of
old one with the the white, the colourful ones, you know?
just something bigger for like these are the Death Squad Daleks. I was like, okay, let's get some. Oh, it's just those bronze ones again. All we did was we got rid of the toilet plunger and replaced it with
I didn't even notice that.
a head scratcher or something. It was
How's that supposed to be worse?
I don't know. I'm not sure what it really did. We didn't see it ever in action, so I'm not sure what that
It's
arm was
for
supposed to do. But
grabbing things like a cup of tea.
the Daleks generally were my favorite thing about this episode. I thought the Daleks were quite good,
Well,
actually.
the thing about the Daleks in this episode is the reason they were good is because they are Daleks and they were done as Daleks. But the Doctor was not done as the Doctor.
No,
Didn't do anything.
because
So I could only enjoy the Daleks.
underneath my note saying Daleks actually felt scary and vicious is a quote where it was, "I'm the Doctor and I stopped the Daleks," and I wrote, "Still doesn't feel oomph enough." Like it's actually really similar to a line Capaldi said when he says, "I'm the Doctor and I'm the man who stops the monsters." He said something like that,
But that's got more meaning.
and it felt like I'm the Doctor. I'm the one who stops the monsters. It really felt like a battle cry. When she said it, she basically just went, "I'm the Doctor and I stop the monsters." It was like, cool, what are you going to do about that then? It was just a bit like, it didn't have that oomph. There's no
I'm
oomph
going to
with
send
this
my
Doctor
companions on the spaceship and let them do the work. Good luck.
because everybody's doing stuff for me in this episode. Jack got me out of prison. Jack put the bombs on the spaceship for me. And
Jack did everything, actually.
there was even like down to the resolution of the episode was like, shall I think of a way to defeat these Daleks? Now I'll just get some other Daleks to do it for me. Anyway.
I know. But let's just talk about Jack for a second. Okay, the scene with him and Yaz,
Yes.
because I've got this properly written down. So when Yaz is kind of talking about how she's didn't have the Doctor for 10 months, which is nothing, but she's talking about how that's really hurt her. And Jack, it was a really nice shot as well with him against the lamp. He talks about how when he lost the Doctor, and that was a really great moment because he says, I didn't know what happened to him, if he was alive, or a little pause for dramatic effect, or if I was ever going to see him again. It's a hard way to live. That little bit there, it was really well acted, well delivered. I felt the emotion, and the fact he referred to the Doctor as a he/him wasn't like didn't it felt made me feel kind of nostalgic, but the reason it was so good is because it was very sweet. Because that's how he saw the Doctor for most of his life. So it wasn't like he was referring to a different person. He was referring to the Doctor he knew,
Yeah.
and that was really sweet actually, and really it was probably my favorite moment of the episode. And the fact that my favorite moment of the episode was really just Captain Jack kind of shows you how the rest of the episode was a bit.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was my favorite scene by a mile. I think this is maybe probably the last actually good Jack scene in the episode, though,
Well,
because
Jack just disappears.
from here on out, it's sort of just like, yeah, we'll just shove him into the background. And one question I do have, as much as I love Jack as a character and Torchwood is great and everything, but I was watching it going, why have we brought Jack back? Besides from, going, hey guys, can you come back and carry on watching the show, please? He only served ex machina purposes. And that is Chibnall's biggest problem. And the entire ending of the episode was a massive ex machina, and we can get onto that soon. But it was like, I've got a convenient device to get you out of prison. Way. Then it was like, I've got these convenient bombs that can destroy the Daleks. Way. I've got a teleport so we can go off teleporting places. And that was I've got a squareness gun so we can get into this building.
Quick thing about the square gun, when he actually used it, if you notice in the close-up when she was looking through the hole, it was a pre-built thing. It was just like a window.
I saw
It
that.
wasn't a cut-out hole. It was something which wasn't cut out at all because it was like a raised ridge.
I
It was like, what the hell?
It was just like a convenient way to get over plot holes.
I know what you mean.
That's the only point about Jack that I did think was like, you are the best thing about this episode.
But to be fair, who else was going to save the Doctor? Because she wasn't going to do anything.
That's true. If it wasn't for Jack, she'd still be in there now.
Yeah.
Just wallowing in her self-pity.
Right, shall we just talk about the Doctor for a bit? Because we've mentioned bits.
Well, this is your introduction to the 13th Doctor. So tell me, what do you make of the 13th Doctor from this episode?
She doesn't feel much like the Doctor, you know?
Yeah.
She feels like someone trying to do an impression of a Doctor. And she kind of feels. I don't know if it's the writing. I think it probably is the writing more than anything. Maybe the acting, but the writing feels very much like she's like the mannerisms. The mannerisms make a person. So they've got to have a hint of the old person. So it loses me there. But the main thing is she doesn't do anything.
That's like I was saying, everybody does something for the Doctor in this episode. There is never a moment. Besides, I suppose you could say the bit with the TARDIS at the end, but besides that, she is not a moment where it's like this would have been different without the Doctor in it. And that was the point that came to me about an hour after watching it. I thought, hold on, if you take the Doctor out of this episode, how is it any different?
Mm. With
And there isn't really that much difference.
the Doctor, in every other incarnation, when the Doctor's in the room, you feel safe. You feel saved. You feel like no matter what, there's a plan here.
Yeah.
Something's gonna go right. With this Doctor, I don't ever feel that. I feel like I'm watching someone with other Doctors, they make it up as they go along. But you always feel like they did it on purpose, you know? It's a classic kind of thing. With this Doctor, she is just she's not making it up as she goes along. She's stumbling through. She either feels like she's doing a terrible impression of another Doctor, or is or has like it doesn't ever feel like she's been given or she ever tries to be her own Doctor who's come from another Doctor. It either feels like she's someone completely separate or she's trying to be the same person. It's not a progression.
Yeah.
You
The
know?
only thing that is a bit more unique about this Doctor that I quite like, but they just stop they just get to a point when it's like, oh, I like that, I like that, I like that. Oh, we've abandoned it. And it's that this Doctor is actually really devious and really secretive. And obviously we've had the Doctor like that before, but this Doctor is really there are
She
moments
she doesn't feel, but she doesn't do that though, Aidan. I love that you're saying that, and that's probably great. But the thing is, at the end, when the
I
companions are
don't think
leaving,
it's intentional.
she goes to hug them, and that doesn't like if she's secretive and kind of that kind of thing. Why would she be like, "Oh, you're my best friend"?
No, I
Ah!
mean, no, not in that sense, but it's like there are some scenes in the last series when they'd be like, Doctor, can you explain this? And she'd go, and they go, no, stop. And there was a moment in this one when she was like, it'll be all right, Ryan, and then walked away. And then Ryan went, no, 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 you don't do that. You tell me now. What were you going to say? And there was a bit where Ryan sort of was like, stop doing that. Stop lying to us. Stop hiding things from us. Tell me now. What do you mean? And like, that's the moment about the Doctor that I think she's actually got these moments. It's actually you're not a very nice person,
Mhm.
and that is the side of the Doctor that I wish they'd. It really frustrates me. Right, I'm going to say this now, right, about the Timeless Child, because every episode from episode 1 to 6 that we've done on this podcast, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in every single one. So this is going to be the final nail in the coffin of the Timeless Child, in that the reference to it really annoyed me in this episode. But obviously it made sense that it was there. But I thought, why are we like back developing the Doctor? You've got this Doctor who you've said is quite secretive and all these things. Develop that from here. And I just everything about the Timeless Child, because this is my final opportunity to say I'm never going to mention it again, is that like I said earlier in the episode, I rewatched the X-Men. Right, this is a tangent here. Bear with me. I rewatched all the X-Men films before Christmas. And obviously they've got the original trilogy with your Hugh Jackmans and all that kind of stuff, and then they've got the new trilogy, which is all the James McAvoy stuff. And it was introduced like it was all one continuity. So you got Days of Future Past that connects the two of them. You got the old guard and the new guard, and you sort of phase in between them. But by you get to Apocalypse, all the continuity doesn't match. Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, none of that continuity matches with the old trilogy because it was a complete soft reboot. I'm going to treat the Timeless Child as the Days of Future Past of Doctor Who, because it's the only way to explain it. In that it was like, okay, we've got all those people from the old guard, but this is the new guard we're ushering in now. So it's a bit like from now on, I'm never going to mention the Timeless Child again, because as far as I'm concerned, the Jodie Whittaker era is a soft reboot, and
It's kind of
it's completely different tonally, everything. It's just this
it's
has
like a
been
parallel
new,
universe, kind of that kind of thing.
yeah, or just like
It's a
a
different thing.
reinterpretation. It's like
Yeah,
those X-Men films. It's like, oh, these are X-Men films, and these are also X-Men films, but they're not necessarily the same X-Men films.
yeah,
This is now like, oh, this is Doctor Who, and what is before was Doctor Who, but they don't have to be the same Doctor Who. And
yeah.
I can stop my Doctor Who at Capaldi's Regeneration. I don't have to. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I'm going to
Also
treat
known
this
as
from
Good
now on.
Doctor Who, we call it.
Yes.
But
So that's how I'm going to treat it, and that's the final word
with
on the
the,
Timeless Child.
I agree with 100% what you were saying, Aidan. So yeah,
So that is because we will do future 13th Doctor episodes on this podcast. But as far as I'm concerned, that is the final word on the Timeless Child. So
Yeah.
every time we're doing a Doctor discussion, I don't have to go just ignoring the Timeless Child. We just accept it that is a soft reboot essentially. Let's talk about the ending now. The whole ending, from the solution of the story to Jack's exit via phone call to
First
that.
Jack's exit via phone call. Come on, you bring Jack back and then you just get rid of him via phone call.
It's
That
just
can fuck
basically
off,
just
but-
goes bye, and then
Yeah.
that's it. Like, come on.
Uh,
And like that was saying about the end, the resolution of the episode, which was a massive ex machina. I was going, oh, we've conveniently got this TARDIS lying around. Let's just get all the Daleks to come in here and then blow it up. And then I thought that was just like, really?
seeing the TARDIS collapsing on itself was kind of an interesting shot, to be fair. But it was dumb, but just seeing it was kind of like that's kind of an interesting thing to see.
I'm glad. Well, I'm glad they said it folded in on itself and went into the void rather than saying I'm going to blow it up. Because I thought, well, last time we blew up a TARDIS, the whole universe reset. That's how powerful a TARDIS explosion is. So I'm glad they did that rather than saying I'm going to blow it up. Because I thought actually you've just ripped a hole in time by doing that. So that made sense. But just the fact that all the Daleks went in there felt like. What, every Dalek on Earth has just gone, let's go to the Doctor now. Really? Really? You're not going to send some division over to Australia or something? You know what I mean? That bothered me. And just the way it was just like, oh, conveniently got a TARDIS. It was like,
And I felt like a waste of a second TARDIS as well. Two TARDIS, TARDI, do something with it,
yeah.
Graham and Ryan leaving felt undeserved and felt like they should have just left at the start of the episode, and it felt wooden and it felt dumb and it felt like the Doctor was being a bit wet over the companions leaving when the Doctor's always been a symbol of strength in that kind of sense,
Mm.
like I'll go back in time and get them back, and it's like you've never done that before. Why are these ones so special when these companions were nothing compared? When
No,
you've had
that's a really good
companions you
point.
felt so much more emotion towards and you thought actually these two are worth it,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I thought about these companions, just thinking they deserve more. And I thought, why did these companions have that right? And the Doctor giving them the psychic paper, it's like you've not given any single companion ever anything, not that I can think of, except a sonic screwdriver to River Song, who you married and saved the universe for you.
About
That's
Sonic
the
lipstick.
only.
Who made the Sonic lipstick?
He might have given that to. Well, he gave K9 to Sarah Jane as well, I guess. But that's
But
Sarah.
these,
That's Sarah Jane.
I know. It's not like these. Well, in any instance that we've forgotten or missed out where the Doctor has given something to a companion, it hasn't been these kind of companions. It's been a staple companion.
Yeah,
It's
'cause
like Batman giving Robin a Batmobile, not Batman giving let's think of one. Batmite, who is
Yes.
you can tell by the name Batmite, even if you don't know the character, it is a terrible thing. The
It's
Batcave. It's dumb.
or Batman saying, "Here, Harvey Bullock, have the Batcave."
Yeah.
Why? Why would you have him of all people? The only it's coming to me. I think there's quite a few in Classic Who. That's why it's coming to me a bit slowly. I believe he gives Romana a K9 as well. He obviously gives out K9s to people,
Where's
but
my
that's Romana. That's it, that's another Time Lord, so he can trust her with that. This in New Who, I think there's no other
And to be fair, a
things like
K9
this.
and a sonic screwdriver, they're powerful, but they're not like but the psychic paper,
Psychic
That-
paper in the hands of two people for a start, not just give them one, like between them, because it's quite a dangerous thing. If that gets into the wrong hands,
You can do
that
anything
could
with that. You
that
could go up
could
to
cause-
you could go to a bank and say, I'm the I'm the health inspector. You need to give me all this cash or something. Something really, you could go
Yeah.
you could go to the Senate in America and say, I am the new president, you see, and you got all the forms,
Mm.
With
That
a psychic paper, you can do anything.
it was a really dangerous thing to give them, and I think that's a
Mm.
really misjudged move. And
And as
why do they deserve it?
I don't know. And like with a sonic screwdriver, that thing can open doors and it doesn't work on wood, It's got limitations.
Yeah,
So they didn't deserve that at all. And
not at
I
all.
they didn't deserve anything. I'm thinking about it. I was just thinking, oh, should we give them a sonic screwdriver instead, or
No, nothing.
something
They
like that?
don't
And
deserve a
they
single
deserve.
thing.
Yeah, I cannot think of any reason why they deserve anything more.
Maybe a new bike. That's all they deserve.
That would have been that would have been quite sweet.
It would,
The
because
doctor gives them a bike.
the first scene we saw of Ryan and Graham was them learning to ride a bike on that exact hill. That's what was the significance of that scene. So when we went back to that for their final scene to also be learning to ride a bike on that same hill, that was the significance of it. I thought, okay, quite poetic, whatever. But if the doctor gave them a bike and was like, "You will definitely be able to ride this one," maybe it's like, because he's got dyspraxia, so that's why he can't ride a bike. That's the idea. But maybe if it was like some sort of augmented tech so that it won't wobble over and he can just ride it.
Just because
Space
Doctor Who's a little bit
stabilizers.
magic, It's always got a little bit of kind of.
Yeah, it's just
It
like
can do something you wouldn't think it could.
this is a bike from the moon of Espraxios or something.
No,
You
but
will
I think
definitely
it'd
be
be
able to
better
ride this.
if she gave him the bike but didn't say anything special. Just said, "Give this one a go." You know,
Yeah.
that feels very Doctor.
That would have been a much nicer
Hmm.
closing rather than giving them potentially the two most powerful and dangerous items on the planet.
Right.
On the companion exits, I did write Graham's exit would be sad if it wasn't for this TARDIS team. I was watching it and I like Bradley Walsh and I did think Graham was okay throughout this series. And I was watching this going because it was clear he didn't want to leave in that scene, but he was
Yes.
leaving to be with Ryan. And I thought that was a really nice touch. Like granddad is leaving to be with grandson. And I thought this is actually quite a nice scene. And I thought this probably would have got some emotion from me if it wasn't just for this TARDIS team, because nobody's really reacting to it.
Yeah.
Nobody's
When
like,
Captain
oh
Jack's there, there's this emotion element coming through from him. When it's just those lot, one thing I've written in my note is the strings. I see the strings. I don't see any emotion, I
mm,
see that they're acting on a set. I don't, there's no emotions. So when one character suddenly starts doing emotion, none of them, as you were saying, are giving any back.
yeah,
Emotional elements in films, the only reason they're ever emotional, if it's with a group of people or with like two characters, is when that one person is doing something emotional and there's a reaction. Because if you see one person being emotional and someone else doesn't react, your
it
brain
loses it.
then feels like, oh, should I not be reacting? You will never fully be able to just embrace it.
Yeah,
Like in a film, if a
that's
person gets killed, the other characters don't just go, oh, whoopsie daisies. If they start crying, you start crying because you
mm.
feel how they feel.
Graham looking like he doesn't want to leave is fine on its own, but then when you cut to the other companions, they're basically just there like just staring blankly at him. I'm
You
like,
don't,
oh, you've lost the emotion here.
I don't know. And
And
okay.
do you want to talk about the final shot? What was that?
Eh,
Whoa.
the whole resolution of the episode is terrible. And then you have this extra bit at the end where they see the ghost of, as you told me, because I didn't know who the hell it was. Who was it again? Was
It
it the
was
grandmother or the mum?
Ryan's grandma and
Grandma.
Graham's ex-wife. She died in the first Jodie Whittaker episode.
Why did they see her ghost?
Right. If they were hell-bent on having Grace in this scene, what they should have done was Ryan ride off in the distance, Graham turn around and see her maybe sat on a park bench. Because this was the opening scene of the Jodie Whittaker era, was them, the three of them on that hill teaching Ryan how to ride a bike. That was the first scene. So
Okay.
if they were hell, that was the whole of this era, that was the very first scene. So if they were hell bent on having her in this scene, they should have just been Graham looking into the distance and seeing her.
Mhm.
The fact they both saw her at the same time appear from a white light was just like, am I watching some 80s power ballad music video? What is going on here? We don't have ghosts in Doctor Who. How have you both seen her at the same time? This is just so cheesy.
It wasn't just cheesy. It was dumb. Not silly, dumb. Like just thick. How thick are you? From Thickania. My God, it was just. It didn't make sense.
No.
And they were both like, "Oh, I just got the sun in my eyes." And I'm like, "Oh, go fuck yourselves." So, it really. The episode, I was positive, and as it progressed, I just.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I'm saying. This review has actually been quite negative, but when I was watching it, I quite enjoyed it. So it's weird how those feelings have come out in actually more of a negative sense, because generally these notes are quite positive until the last
yeah.
two
My
pages.
last page is just me swearing vigorously at what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it's just a really strange thing, because when I was watching it, I did enjoy it. I quite liked Jack, besides the fact that Jack was just there to just fix plot holes, and I really enjoyed the Daleks. There were things I really enjoyed about this episode, but then the things I didn't like, it's like the things I enjoyed got me so high, but the things I didn't enjoy piled higher, and they've just pulled it all down. That's what it feels like. I was saying at the beginning of this podcast that I expected it to be a 2 out of 10, and it was higher. I'd give it maybe 5.5.
It gets a 3 from me.
A 3 from, oh, that's even
Yeah.
harsh.
Well,
I'd give it a
I
5.
don't give anything like 10s, so my rating's already lower than most things.
My favorite scene, and your favorite scene, I think we can agree, was Jack's monologue with Yaz.
Yep.
I think that was the real highlight of the episode. What would you say is the worst scene? I think we'd probably agree on it, really.
It's either the ending or just any scene where the Doctor decides to say mate or fam.
Yeah, I
'Cause
know.
that
I'd
pours
give
my
it to
blood.
I'd give it to the ending. The
Yeah.
cheesy shot of Grace just was not needed whatsoever.
It's just whenever the Doctor says, me as a person, I've always found mate to be a kind of a. It's when it right. If anyone says to me, dude or man, I'm fine. That sounds kind of cool because I say it myself. But if anyone ever says mate, I just like I want to punch you.
Yeah,
Because like what?
I don't like mate. It's sweet. If someone goes, "Oh, give me that mate," or something, here you go,
Yeah,
mate. I'm
it's
like,
like
shut up.
yeah, I just want to like ah. So whenever the Doctor says fam mate, I'm like oh, I'm gonna stab you in both your
Yeah,
hearts.
I agree.
On
At
that
all.
note, though,
But that brings us to the end. That was our review / ramble of Doctor Who's latest episode, Revolution of the Daleks. Some positive elements, we will give it that, but generally, like we said with the Fear Her episode, it's lots of little things that build up into a really big thing. I don't think there's anything majorly wrong with it, generally, but there's a lot of little things here and there that go, put them together, and you've got so many faults for me. And that's how I generally feel. Do you agree?
I just didn't like it, and I've said why, and I don't want to talk
Yeah.
about it anymore.
Well, unfortunately, we are going to be doing another Jodie Whittaker episode next week.
How? Help me! Someone
So
write
sorry.
in, please.
We're going to be doing next week. Join us for The Witchfinders, which is from series 11. The reason we're doing this one is because even though George hasn't seen it, we managed to get into quite a meaty discussion over the phone once. We were like talking about how we could have improved this episode. So it's going to be quite a nice way to jump into that one. And it's actually one of the few Jodie Whittaker episodes that I like. It's just the ending falls apart.
Just a little teaser for everyone. We do think that it had quite a bit of potential.
That's us, really.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for listening, everyone,
Thank
or
you for
watching.
listening.
If you can see us, you can see me waving. If not, but thank you for listening, everyone, and we will see you next week. We're back in business, baby.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
See ya.